I'm a fan of getting concepts out of the way anyway in every realm of life, and I'm going to apply it here to parenting. And specifically, we're looking at parenting an older teen through a hard time. So I've got a client question about cooking for a kid. I'm just going to be gender neutral here and say they and them. Cooking for a kid who's really thrown off by life right now, and waking the kid up and imposing structures and any number of things that she's wondering about, like, do I do this or don't I? And she's looking for a way to proceed that feels good and right to her. So here's what I want to say. In terms of good and right, there's not a right or wrong. There's not going to be a fixed rule. Sometimes a fixed rule is useful. But for the most part, there's no perfect way to parent in these situations, and there is no such thing as a perfect parent. But, even if you did it really well, it would just be a matter of, walking the tightrope and constantly course correcting and finding new balances in the moment. And it's not about applying some template that you can just fill in. So it requires alertness and letting go, so the alertness can be relaxed. So let your point of departure be, this kid's okay. They have their journey. They are on that journey. That journey hasn't ended just because they're sleeping crazy hours. That journey hasn't ended just because they're making poor choices. It hasn't even ended just because they appear to have checked out in certain ways or are talking about seriously checking out. So here you are, and you're not in charge of your kid's journey, but if you want to, if you choose to, you can hold space in a way that really makes a difference and that really provides some love and support. But that's not probably going to be about, it's certainly not going to be about controlling, and it's probably not going to be about a lot of rules and concepts that you follow. So, for example, do I cook for the kid or not? They're not showing up for family meals. They know how to cook. It's up to them to feed themselves. I'm just going to let it be. Or, but they're not eating and they're not okay. And I know they do better when they aren't having blood sugar crashes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the mind can be all over the place and present any number of things that are true, but you're going to scare yourself silly if that's how you navigate this terrain. So let me invite you instead to a sort of blanket letting go. It's the kid's journey. They are okay. Something is happening. They have any number of supports and guides that aren't you. And they have their inner guidance. And they may be not beautifully in touch with it right now, but it's still there. And you can actually support it by not over-inserting yourself, and by, anytime you get the chance, pointing out to them where they feel off about what's going on, instead of telling them they're off by your standards, by what you know, by your great wisdom. You could be right, but let that go. So if you don't have a concept, for example, about the cooking, you can just go with the moment. Right now, it flashed to me how long it's been since they've eaten, and right now I'm aware of something in the fridge that I could cook, and right now I'm available for that. And right now it would feel good to me to do that. And right now I'm willing to offer that and detach from outcome, whether they eat it or don't, whether they feel grateful or get mad at me, whether what I do gets acknowledged or not. So in that moment, cook and offer the food. I got my daughter through a really hard time. And when I say I'm speaking through my perspective. I actually got myself through a hard time while she was going through it. And I was able to offer some significant help, which she told me about later, and at the time was certainly not narrating. I did not get praise and gratitude. She didn't have that to give. It didn't have anything to do with whether she was or wasn't grateful. That's not where her mind was. So how I was able to help her in that time was to really let go even of whether she lived or died, because she wasn't sure she wanted to live. And Byron Katie's 3 Kinds of Business are so helpful to me always. And it is not my business whether my daughter lives or dies. It is not mine to determine the length of her path or how her path goes. And that doesn't mean I wouldn't grieve heavily and with all my heart if she left when I didn't feel ready, and I certainly didn't feel ready then. So what I did do, though, was let go, leave her to her journey, and find, ask myself the question I just love around the 3 kinds of business. It's so simple, it's so profound. It is, what is my business here? It's so easy. So I just kept asking that. So what can I do? What am I willing to do? And instead of finding a rule for how to proceed, I would just go in the moment to moment. So if I go by concepts, one of my beliefs is that I need a good night's sleep, and that I do better if I just sleep a certain number of straight, solid, consecutive hours. But when my daughter was going through this, she would be up. She slept crazy hours. She was completely dysregulated. Sometimes her night and day got flipped. So I would get up to pee at 3 a.m. and there she would be. And sometimes I would check in on her. She would show up in my space, and she actually wanted my attention. This could be after not wanting my attention and even pushing me away all day or for several days running. And so here we were, 3 a.m. Now she wants my attention. So in my old way of framing things, this would have upset me greatly. I would have agonized over whether I would be rested or not the next day. I would have felt resentful. I would have forgotten that I had choice. So with the new concepts I operate by, which are heavy on the let go of concepts, I would simply say, right now, here and now, do I want to be with her? Is this an opportunity? Is this an opening that I've actually been looking for? Am I willing to give this? And I would choose that. And every time I chose to spend time with her, sometimes we had these like 3 to 6 a.m. times together. And they were rich, and they were sweet, and they included real talk and tears, and I got to really hold space for her. And did it fix everything? No. Did it ensure that we then were close all the time and that she counted on me more and called on me more? No. And, did I save her? No. But I was one of the super important components. And how I did it wasn't through brilliance, through scheming, through planning, through structure, through control. How I did it was lots of letting go and just finding in the moment, right now, what did I just get inspired to try? What feels right? What feels good to me? What am I choosing to do? And let go of outcome and what she thinks of or sees about what I'm doing. And, just one more example. Sometimes she needed help from others. It was such a it takes a village kind of era. And every once in a while, it was just that divine inspired thing. Someone would pop into my head. And I might say to my daughter, hey, if so-and-so's available, would you like to talk to them? Or just, is it okay if so-and-so comes over? And, if we were even beyond that, I would just skip that step and just follow my inspiration to call so-and-so. And I just can't even tell you how many times the angel of the moment, the human angel of the moment, would happen to be there and be available and be willing and feel good about giving themselves to this important effort of keeping somebody precious alive. And it was amazing. And what I did was get out of the way, stop trying to control, yet stay open to what can I do, what is my part, and follow inspired action in the moment, letting go of outcome. And that's the formula if you need a formula.